Sunday morning. Father Moo here. The Moo for you. Good to see people still showing up for these streams. I gotta admit, I laugh at myself because it takes more work for me to upload a 5-minute video of my hardware modular than it does to make a 30-minute stream. But I don't get that many views on the hardware modular stuff. I don't really get why. At first, when my YouTube channel was starting to see more people, my buddy said, oh, well, it's because of Eurorack. Everybody wants to see Eurorack. Everybody wants to see the modules. And I was like, okay. But they don't. I guess what the people listening to this stream want is to patch along on their own system. Or even if they don't patch along, just watch a patch get built and steal whatever ideas they can, which is learning, you know. So anyway, there will still be more hardware stuff because that's part of what I do. And I do have some friends living overseas who check it out, but the streams will keep on coming. They'll keep on coming. Anyway, this is another old one from before. Number 17. We're now on 30 something. But let's do something new today. We always like to do something new, learn something new. Your life is more interesting if you're doing something new, or at least that's what they tell me. So I guess this is going to be one of those episodes in the series where I promise to take a piece of a module that I don't normally use and use it. So let's look at one. We're gonna use this one. Dun, 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 dun. Filter Bank 1. And I built a 3-input mixer. So as you can see, Filter Bank 1 takes 18% of the processing power, which is ridiculous. But I'm gonna try to use 3 of them. Yes, 3 of this crazy powerful filter. So what is a filter bank? I've also heard it called a fixed filter bank, because as you can see here, you don't get to pick what frequencies you filter out. You get to pick how much, but you don't get to change that number. 50 is 50 and it's not going anywhere, so it's fixed. So as I understand it, back in the extremely early days of modular, we had the low-pass filter, and everybody was loving that. And we got the band pass, we got the high pass. Those are also popular. But I think it was Wendy Carlos who originally asked Bob Moog to build her a fixed filter bank. And he did, maybe as a custom one-off. But then eventually that module in some form got into production in the Moog modular system, and regular people could buy them. So I don't know if you have one of these in your system. I don't personally use VCV Rack. Not that I have a problem with it. I just don't get around to it. I've never tried it. So if you were in VCV Rack and they have something called the 4MS Spectral Multiband Resonator, that might be similar to this. That is 6 bandpass filters, except you can shift them, you can tune them. So instead of being 50, 75, 110, you can push a switch and they become 60, 85, 120, if you see what I mean. The filters are in relation to each other. And then you can also set it, if you feed it a noise signal and let it self-oscillate, it will make sine waves. So you can have 6 tunable sine waves, kind of similar to this bad boy that we've seen over here. We're not going to be using this today, but this is 6 tunable sine waves. So I guess you could say some of the functionality of the 4MS SMR is here, and some of it is here. I actually own a SMR, although I stopped using it in the Eurorack because I couldn't really figure it out, unfortunately. But yeah, there's nothing wrong with it. So I guess what I'm saying is if you are in VCV Rack today, and if they do support 4MS SMR, Spectral Multiband Resonator, then you may use one to do one of these jobs here. So, as I said, with the outputs and the little mixer, we're already at 56%, so we're really skinny on what kind of processing power is left. So what I'm going to do today is create 3 voices, if I can find enough processing power to get there. And with those 3 voices, I'm going to send them to the fixed filter banks, and each of the fixed filter banks will have different settings. So luckily they have these presets buttons for me here, min and max, just a shortcut. So for example, these will probably change later. Imagine that I put the first filter bank here, and he gets control of the top of the frequency world. And then I put the next bank here, set him to min, and then he gets the middle part of the frequency world. Come on, little buddy. These aren't very easy to grab and move, or they could be easier. And then finally, the third guy here, actually I wonder if I'm going to end up using these because this is pretty much my plan. He gets the bass world. So this is sort of just saying, let's stick each sonic element in its own little filtered area, and that'll give it space to breathe. Now, that will mean that, for example, in the middle sound, whatever that is, he's going to be losing out in terms of everything up here and everything down there. But as long as his pitch, whatever pitch he creates, is in that zone, mostly it should be okay. For example, if you made a really low bass note and you send it to this filter bank where it doesn't allow anything through below 1.3 kilohertz, then you're not going to hear anything, or you might hear a very, very faint rumbling in the background, but it won't be very exciting. So you could also think of this as similar to stereo. If you ever mixed in stereo, you might say, okay, I'm going to put the drums in the middle, and then I'm going to put one guitar a little bit off to the left, and put one piano off to the right. And once you do that, they have their own space to sit in. You allow them to occupy that space, and they don't step on each other's toes, if you see what I'm saying. Whereas if you have the bass guitar and the drums, traditionally those two instruments are supposed to play together, like locked in a pattern. So you might mix both of those in mono because you want them to sort of smush together and blend into a single sound. So anyway, that's the theory. So like stereo, the concept of these fixed filter banks should be to give each voice its own space to breathe, to do its job, and to make music without stepping on the toes of another tone, if you see what I'm saying here. I was going to put in some drums, but I think given the fact that we need to play notes which are in these designated zones, it might make more sense just to have oscillators. So I would like to have that's not going to be it. I would like to have a low-pass filter on some of those oscillators, but I don't think I'm going to have the processing power left. Maybe a fixed one I might have enough. I'm just going to make the bits I know I need before I start adding stuff that's extra. So I'm going to definitely need 3 envelopes for these 3 guys. And I'm going to need a clocky boy over here. Clock gen. Why don't we use let's use this one for the first 2. And then we're going to use a clock pattern generator for the 3rd voice. We are now at 90.1. Crap. And I mean, that's a lot. And then I'm going to need let's see what I can get away with here. I'm going to try B. Come on, B. This is still doable. 92.9. Come on. And it's just so... What I'm looking for is that key quantizer thing. Where does that guy live? He's 1.3%. Okay, so it's in the range. And I can't do this without at least one clocked random step generator, 0.60%. Yep. Okay, so we're now at 94.9. So if I need to, I might jam a fixed low-pass filter on some of these envelopes before they reach the end of the signal chain, but I think we may have just barely got there. I still got a little processing power to throw in a few more LFOs or control signals if I need them. So let's just patch it all up. There's the red wires, oscillator to envelope, and as I said, the filter bank is going to be doing the job of filtering here today. First one, I like square wave with PWM. Second one, I'm going to give... Oh, so this is going to be the high pitch guy. We got to think about this carefully now. Triangle will be the bass. Triangle is traditionally a good bass one. It's almost like a sine wave, but it does have some frequencies to modulate. The sawtooth is going to be in the middle, and the square is going to be up at the top. There's nothing wrong with either of those settings. They should be fine. That's all the red wires we need, so let's just get rid of them in the view. Hook up the gates, so 2 channels of sequencer out. And the third one is coming from pattern gen. And then we've got pitches, 1 sequencer into my top oscillator. I'm going to use a second sequencer on my bass because I want my bass line to be something predictable. So actually that means we got to switch these two. Drag that out. So I've become slightly confusing here. What's the easiest way I can rearrange these? Let's put him down there. So that now I'm just doing this so we can eyeball it, or if we come back years later and we can't figure it out. So this is a sequencer, and these two guys are going to have notes played, and those are voice 1 and voice 3. And then the random voice is voice 2. His gate is going to be random from the pattern gen. His notes are going to be random from the key quantizer, which is going to get fed a random signal. Cool. So then this gate should be channel 2 of event sequencer. That's it for that. Let's make sure the pitches are up all the way. That guy doesn't have anything plugged in yet. He needs this output, and he's going to get this. And that's it for blue right now. I guess we can send blue to here too. Be random as well. And let's kill the blue cables, or just hide them. And finally, yellow. Let's dial the tempo down. Let's take 4 pulse output into the click in, into these guys. Everybody's driven off the same clock here. Oh, we're already getting sound. Oh, that's okay. So we're already getting voice 2. He's getting his random pattern generated. Let's just connect the reset. Excuse me. And I think it's kind of lazy, and I mean I am lazy, but it's even lazier than I like to be to use the random button on the note sequencer if you're really going to make notes. So instead I'm going to make some variations on the octave here, and that should do the job. These guys don't have any notes playing yet, so let's see what we have here. 1, 2, yep. Oh, you can already hear the filtering going on. Or at least I can. It doesn't sound very random over here. Oh, it's because I don't have a clock connected to the random generator. That's why. And we need some notes on here. These guys are tuned to E. So let's take the triangle down an octave at least, maybe 2 later. And I'm going to take this guy up because remember my top voice is the high-pitched one. Maybe this. I'm going to feed. We haven't talked about it too deeply. I think most synth people will know. When you have a square wave oscillator, you often have the option to modulate the pulse width. That will give you some motion or variation in the sound. Personally, I enjoy the sound. Lots of synth nerds do. So you can see pulse width is only available as an option on square. But if you've never tried patching it before, here I'm feeding it a clocked random LFO, but a standard LFO, like a sine wave, would also do just fine. In fact, let's go nuts here. Is E going to be a sine wave? No, that's a triangle wave. Square wave. Why didn't they just name them what they were? C doesn't tell me anything. There we go. So it was C. You can barely hear it anyway, but the pulse width is getting modulated. Why did I do that? Because this LFO already has a job to do and he's at a certain tempo. I want a nice slow modulation of the pulse width, so I'm going to dial that down. And the sine wave is, of course, smooth, so it will do it more smoothly. We got a bunch of things going on. Let's mute a couple of voices and make sure we hear what we're hearing. Okay. So this is the upper frequency voice. Let's give him his full range here. He's sounding kind of thin, to be honest, right? So he's doing this pattern with the octaves. I'm going to give him some minor key notes and make this a minor key sequence. It's not the right note. It's not bad, but it's still quite thin. So as I'm turning up the filter frequencies here, I'm hearing a lot more depth as I get into the mid-range. So I actually kind of feel like I'm falling into my own trap. Oh, you know what it could be? Let's try turning this down. There we go. Okay, the pulse width modulation might have been too extreme. That's better, that's better. So I can... Okay, so I've returned to my original plan. This voice is only allowing the top bits through. Let's give him a little bit of mod now that we know too much is a bad thing. Okay, cool. So to go with him, I've turned the second voice's random off. Let's program the bass line. Isn't the note I was expecting to hear? It's weird. Something's weird here. To me, it sounds like the oscillators are out of tune. That's impossible because they're playing the same note, E and E. But sometimes with filtering, one of the knock-on effects is you may hear things as being out of tune, even if the source material is not actually. I'm going to use this bypass knob. I'm going to use this one too. Okay, now they're perfectly in tune. Might have just been my ears. Now they sound okay to me. Definitely in tune here. That's so odd. Okay, weird. Super weird. There we go. Now we're partying. I don't know about you, but I can definitely hear the bass is in his own bass frequency. The treble is on his own treble frequency. So we're getting close to successful filter-wise. Let's get the random voice in there. He needs to be playing notes tuned to the key. So let's do that now. Kind of can't hear him. Let's mute some of the other guys here. This guy has sort of extended down into his comfort zone, if you see what I'm saying. So let's give him space to breathe here. He's playing some really bassy notes, but those notes aren't getting through because he's all filtered out in the bass. So I had his range at, oh, I see, this should be 24, not 32. Or is it 64? Yeah, no, it should. Sounds very like telephony, like he's calling in from a long distance. Yeah. So, I guess you'll have to decide for yourself how useful this experiment was. We definitely got there because I'm going to just adjust this volume down a bit. Our high-pitched voice is operating in the right range. Our middle random voice is sort of telephone sounding, as I said. maybe he'd benefit from a different waveform. All of them are sounding very similar because they're nothing but an oscillator into an envelope into the fixed filter bank. And there's no motion in the filter bank like we'd usually adjust a filter, like a low-pass filter with an LFO. It just stuck at what it is. So the whole sound we have here is quite static. We're not getting a lot of variation like I usually try to go for. In fact, the only thing that's really getting modulated is the pulse width of one of the three oscillators. So there's no wonder really that it's not that exciting. But at least for me, I can hear the bass line, the mid-range instrument, and the pingy upper instrument. They're each playing the parts they were supposed to play. Take out a few notes and make your little sparser. Yeah. Not the greatest melody on earth, but I think that's successful in terms of what we were trying to do, especially with a module. As I say, I can't say I've never used it, but I certainly don't remember the last time I did. So, yeah. So it's something I'm not an expert in. Let's call this Filter World. Or you know what? Let's call it Fixed Filter. Because there's filters in everything, but fixed filters is what we're definitely doing here. And drop it into the synth. Where's my spot? Isn't it supposed to be number 35 here? What's number 35, Frank? Distortion Factory. I'm going to leave a space for Distortion Factory because I know it's in there somewhere. And there's 36 fixed filter. Okay, I hope you found this interesting, or if it leads you to discover the wonders of using a fixed filter bank, please check it out. I can tell you one thing where a fixed filter bank might be interesting is to feed a field recording. If you record like the birds singing outside your house and various other background noises, and then you run that into a fixed filter bank and isolate it by each band and listen to what's happening in each band, it should be quite interesting, to say the least. You'll probably find some odd sounds that are sort of hidden behind the main or dominant sounds, and they're sort of hiding in one bank or one area of the sound picture, which can be isolated by that individual filter. So try it out on that sort of material. It should be interesting. Okay, next up will be something different because I try to keep it different. Thank you so much for making it to church on this wonderful Sunday. You could have been watching football, but no, you're here with me, Father Moo, in the church of the synth, our true God. So thank you so much, and again, thank you so much to everybody who keeps tuning in every time. I really, really do appreciate it, and I'm going to keep doing these. I'm going to aim for a video a day. I don't know if it'll be a stream a day, but most of them will be streams, and I'm going to keep on doing it till the wheels fall off. Peace out.